I think this is the most impressive single play a prospect made this entire cycle. Collin Murray-Boyles, I'm just going to let you watch this play because you're going to need to watch it again. Yeah, if you haven't seen that clip before, like, he steals this ball before this player can pass the ball out of his hand. Like, he just rips it with one hand out of this player's hand. It's the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen. And Collin Murray-Boyles is one of the most ridiculous defensive players I've seen at the college level in quite some time. I think people are too low on him, and it starts with the defense, where his hands are phenomenal. His reflexes and like coordination, reaction time. Look at him dive on the floor, but he is so good at just poking the ball away from players that don't have it secure. Like, it is imperative to think about ball control and to handle the ball. He's so aware of everything going on him at all times. This is a great like modern peel switch right here, where pick and roll right here, but the drop defender, I need to open this for it. Drop defender is taking the ball handler. Murray-Boyles knows there's going to be a gap right there, right, with to pass over, and he just gets his hand in the passing lane as he does. And if you're enjoying the video, and if you enjoy Collin Murray-Boyles, or if you don't, I'd really appreciate a comment. Let me know what you think. Likes and subs really help with all the algorithm stuff. But yeah, Murray-Boyles early here, tagging the pick and roll, pokes out that pass with great accuracy. Just a wildly impressive playmaker and an incredibly good help side rim protector. I think his paint protection has limitations, which we'll get to, but his instincts and recognition and reaction time, like, he sniffs this out immediately that he's going to have to rotate, 2 fluid steps, he's quick off the floor, spikes it off the glass. Like, he's only like 6'6" or 6'7", but he has an incredible wingspan, which really helps him here. And that second jump just helps him annihilate shots. He cuts off this first drive by Trey Johnson. Probably shouldn't have left his feet there, but by the way, sick pass by Trey here. But he immediately sets, turns around, spikes that shot out of bounds. Like, his awareness and recognition are ridiculous. And if he was center size with this same kind of package, he would be like an all-time defensive prospect. But he's sadly not. And Murray-Boyles, again, we see him reacting quickly, changing direction smoothly, covering a ton of short space quickly. Like, he's so good at like the short area quickness, changing directions, accelerating to get up to block shots like that. And it makes him a ridiculous help defender who plugs up gaps easily in his own defense. I think we already actually showed that clip. I didn't mean to show it again. But another one of CMB just spiking the ball off the glass as he does. And I think I had this one twice too. But anyways, Murray-Boyles is really good at getting blocks on the way up. You've seen a lot of great rim protectors do this and kind of get credited for this, like Duncan and Evan Mobley does this a ton. But there's no room for error here, right? He's not leaving it up to chance where the ball's going to fly. He's like, I'm going to poke this away right as it's leaving your hand. And we saw him do that on the first clip, kind of, right? Where he did it, but with a pass instead of a block, instead of a shot, which is totally incredible. And yeah, the way that he can erase shots at the rim against college competition, quick set, explode, spike. I really love his footwork on these plays. Notice the quick hop, just to kind of get aligned, get balanced. And he doesn't need a ton of knee bends to explode with that, which I like. It's only like a little arm. It's like a bit of an arm swing, but his knees don't bend that much compared to what you'll see from a lot of other players who like have to really bend their knees and load up. And that takes time, of course, which hinders rim protection. And yeah, Murray-Boyles is a great post defender at this level as well. And he's just walling up the rim constantly on defense. He's always looking to stop drives, to help over when the defense collapses. Even though this player hasn't even crossed the three-point line, Murray-Boyles rotates over, forces a tough kick out. His teammates close out, and they rotate, and they kill that advantage right at the beginning. But I do have some issues with Murray-Boyles' rim protection, and he just isn't as big and as tall as you'd like. That just does show up even with the rim protection. And I don't think he's always super early as a help defender, where one way to mitigate, not being as athletic as the guy dunking on you, right, is to get to the spot earlier, where we've seen plays where Murray-Boyles reacted really early, but this is when he should be making his rotation over, right? This advantage is created, defender's hips return, clear lane to the basket, but he moves now, and it's too late with someone as athletic as Shane Johnson, I think. But yeah, so I do have my worries about his paint protection, where it is very reliant on these like multiple chances, and it's incredible the way that he can rotate, like be a little jumpy, but then rotate back and just use his strong hands to tie the ball up. That's something that's great with Murray-Boyles, that he always has his hands to fall back on. I think that bad clip was probably too early, honestly, because we're still going through good clips. But Murray-Boyles, great point of attack defender too. Not like an insane on-ball defender, but really good against wings and forwards and bigger guys, where he can just overpower them with his strength, and his lateral quickness is far too good for most bigger players to really deal with. And you see the way that he's able to get up and challenge like a Janai Broom, who's not super tall, but taller than him for sure. Again, watch the footwork. Like, even though he's kind of off balance here, he quickly like takes a little 2 short choppy steps to jump off of 2 feet. And yeah, that's an impact contest right there. It's still, good look for Broom that he can make, but it's not an easy one by any means. And I think Murray-Boyles generally does a really good job of altering shots in space. And when he's just sliding in a straight line, even though he made that shot, it's really hard to get anything on Murray-Boyles. And you see that reflected in his like defensive impact stats, where, by the way, shout out Databaller, just like the best stat website. These numbers are crazy. South Carolina was terrible this year outside of Murray-Boyles. 8% better or worse, their opponent shot at the basket, 96th percentile with Murray-Boyles on the floor. They shot less at the rim. They took less free throws. They rebounded the ball less. Their defense turned the ball over more. They forced less shots. And, of course, the impact numbers are phenomenal, right? Like, and just the stats, all of the stats you want to look at, right? His block rates are great. His rebounding is great. He gets a ton of steals for his position. Like, he is such a rock-solid defensive prospect. There are definitely issues, though. His point-of-attack defense on quicker guys isn't as good, and he's very handsy. I think he relies on his hands a lot, and I worry if that gets if that ever gets him in trouble in the league. Like, I think he gets beat here on this first step. Trey isn't that quick, and he's lucky, but he's able to hand-check him, right? Just 2 hands, swipe him out of the way. They're not going to call a lot of these. Again, Murray-Boyles shifts his weight, opens this way. Johnson has the top foot, kind of bumps him again. And again, this is just good physical defense, and it's a great rep at the college level. He does end up fouling at the end right there, though. Like, he fouls the shot, crowds the landing space. You can see right there. But I do have some worries about how foul happy he can be. But his ability to like rip through screens is also really impressive. Like, look at him guarding a dribble handoff to Grant Nelson and just ripping that ball away. Going back to how kind of locked in you have to be against Murray-Boyles. But again, you can see his handiness, and he does foul a decent bit, where you just get 2-hand push right here on Diabate. Ref's going to call that pretty much every time on the offensive player, right? So that's definitely something he can clean up. He's still young, obviously, but I do think quickness can give him some issues, where even like explosive wings like Arthur Kaluma, the quick cross, like his footwork is sometimes kind of hoppy and jumpy. Like the same hopping he likes to do as a rim protector hurts him here. We'll watch his feet one more time. Murray-Boyles is going to hop to the right, hop to the left, and because he's not on balance right there, Kaluma easily gets him, and he's just not quick enough to, shift his hips and recover, and ends up giving up a pretty wide open paint touch. He's really good at like flipping his hips and chasing a block, but he's not as good at like the short area change of direction. He's pretty quick in a straight line in a short area, but you can see how clunky it is when he has to like open his hips, try to change directions, and Diabate was pretty easily able to beat him. Also, his positioning just like wasn't perfect. I think if he just like began sliding backwards immediately instead of stepping up, like the footwork definitely can improve, even though it's really good in some areas but below average in some areas. And yeah, bigger players are just going to shoot over him sometimes, and I do think that's underrated for how much it matters. It mattered for guys like Onyeka and Jalen Duren and Jarris Walker. Like, these undersized college rim protectors often don't translate like that. And I think Murray-Boyles is still going to be very good, and sometimes he can ball watch as well. Like, but again, I think not an issue I'm generally so concerned about, and I think his incredible load and usage are worrying. His like center-ish defense is, I don't think he's like can be full-time center because of the rim protection issues we talked about. He's a mixed drop defender where sometimes he just gets caught in no man's land and doesn't seem to know where he has to be. He can generally hold up, though, just kind of forcing Mark Sears to the baseline here. ends up getting his hands in there, forcing a tough shot. But then there are like ridiculous flashes like this where he's backpedaling smoothly and blocking a shot in a backpedal. And this is where his ability to get up off the floor quickly really helps. Like, he's so good when he can just sit back, contain the ball handler moving backwards, and contest. So there's definitely potential for him with like drop and center-ish defense kind of things. But another possession where we see Murray-Boyles, he's always going to fight to recover, and his strength, I think, is really helpful in these situations where he can like wall up. And Grant Nelson, a stronger player or a weaker defender, might let Grant just go straight, but look at his path. He rounds it out, takes a much tougher shot, and I don't remember if that was a foul or not, but anyways, you can see the level of strength overall. And Murray-Boyles' defense is best summed up to me in possessions like this, where he makes 5, 6, 7 impact plays all in one defensive possession, only one of them which will be tracked by the box score, and that's the steal at the end. Let's just kind of count them one by one. Murray-Boyles is going to hedge out on this double ball screen. Great job blowing it up, and South Carolina switches this nicely right here. So that's one impact play. Murray-Boyles puts his hands up in the passing lane, deters the pass. That's 2. Quickly rotates and closes out under control. 3. Slides to cut off the baseline. That's 4 or 3.5, I guess, depending on how you feel. He jumps, so, he gets off balance, but quickly recovers and then steals this pass. Just, again, we started this defensive section with the peel switch against Arkansas, I think. And we're going to end it with a peel switch. Like, I have my issues with Murray-Boyles offensively, which we'll get into, but his defense is sublime, and I truly think he has Defensive Player of the Year level upside. Not sure he's going to get there, but I think it's within his wheelhouse. Offensively is where my concerns arise, and I think the upside case for him is built around the driving. Like, he can do some impressive stuff, attacking quickly, using his great leverage and burst and strength. There's like get into defenders. Again, he goes right through room, and his strength and touch and like fluid mobility really do help him. He was an incredibly efficient finisher this year. We see that same leaping off of 2 feet, helping him glide through the air, finish over Adu. And Murray-Boyles has a good handle for a big. I wish it was better, and I think that's another big swing skill for him, is like improving his handle. But he can do basic like hezzy crossover on broom, spin back to the middle, finish with the left, like nasty. But I do worry about how many of Murray-Boyles' shots are difficult. Like, this is a crazy tough shot fading away under pressure over a contest, and he has phenomenal touch and can get to these spots. And maybe he's just one of those guys who can really rely on his touch. But I think plays like this are really encouraging, where he can just jab step, beat Broom off the bounce, use his right hand to finish. And obviously Broom isn't like an incredible perimeter defender, and his shot is not great, but it'll be important to develop, because you see plays like this where a defender closes out to Murray-Boyles' shot. They shouldn't do that. Murray-Boyles quickly blows by. His flexibility to get some bend on that drive, his quickness, his ability to finish over and through other bigs. He's really good at just like kind of these like rhythm setup crossovers, waiting for this defender to bite. This, Ivicic switches his feet, and Murray-Boyles just goes right through him. Finishes strong. His strength is pretty crazy. He destroyed Arkansas in this game, getting to the bucket, just using his strength and power. He also destroyed Janai Broom in this game, where he was just getting by him pretty much at will, using his speed and his strength and his leverage advantages overall to get by him. Murray-Boyles, to me, some of the most intriguing stuff he does comes on the short roll or in advantage situations like this, where it's a 4-on-3. Because he's such a good driver and a scorer, just nasty, like, negative step Euro, that is disgusting. Gets around the big man and ends up finishing. The skill level is just extremely high for Murray-Boyles. And I just wish he had a little more explosive twitch. Like, he just doesn't have, like, the high-end juice that some other undersized drivers, like, obviously not Zion, but, like, that we'll talk about shortly. I think this is a very real use case for Murray-Boyles in the league. Like, he's going to be a killer on these dribble handoff keep actions, where the big defender kind of pauses for a second because he's expecting a pitch, and then Murray-Boyles just dives into the paint. He has the quickness and the strength and all the things we keep repeating to pretty comfortably execute plays like that. But he is just very much a power driver at this stage, where he has some nimbleness more than a lot of players his size. He's there aren't a lot of players with his dimension, but he can just run through players with the same strength that he walls up with on defense. He can use on offense, and beautiful tough finish in the post. But again, this is like such a difficult shot that are the kind of main types of shots in terms of contests that he creates. And another crazy difficult leaning, fading, and one just crazy touch, body control, balance on that finish. But against NBA level athletes, it's just tough to rely on that. But he is a phenomenal finisher, and I think he's going to be a good finisher in the league, even if not just like as incredible of a self-created finisher. He's a great roll finisher. Like, even though he's not a crazy above the rim threat, he can definitely pump fake and use his smarts and his feel and his strength and his footwork and all of that. But I think he can rely a little much at this level, even at times, on these power drives where just bull rush through the chest and then use the footwork, try to touch in a shot. Couldn't finish that with his right hand over there. And his size, while, it does impact him some protecting the rim on defense, and I think it could limit his finishing ceiling a tad too. You'll see him get a bit uncomfortable when there's multiple defenders jumping at him, and he just doesn't have the height or the vertical explosiveness. He gets off the floor very quick, but he doesn't get that high is kind of my issue. And I think the former trait, like the quickness off the floor, is more valuable for defense, definitely. But I think the latter is probably more valuable for offense, right? Being able to get up to the rim and dictate that driving. But yeah, I could definitely imagine some issues propping up if Murray-Boyles tries to scale up at the NBA level with these same kind of face-up plays, where it's just a diet of heavily contested shots that Murray-Boyles is admittedly really good at making. So yeah, and you can make of that what you will, and there's multiple different answers here. But yeah, it's just a clinic. This, I'm not going to show footage of him, but I wanted to. This reminds me a lot of Grant Williams in some ways. Just the reliance on tough shot making and a kind of mid-post touch game. But Murray-Boyles hasn't shown much as a shooter. Like, he takes very few mid-range pull-ups, but there's some nice flashes. But even then, he's just kind of walking into it against a switch. I think I showed this twice by accident. So nice. Let's watch it twice. Murray-Boyles face up, and if a defender gives him space, CMB will just pull it in his face, but not his game. And he's not a great spot-up shooter at this point. His shot isn't particularly quick. And the overall shooting numbers are just not the best. But he adds value off the ball as an offensive rebounder. I love that swim. There you go, getting up. I love this swim move right here. Two defenders go to box him out, but he's like, nope, I'm just going to throw one of them aside, jump over Miles Kelly, go up and dunk the ball. He is such a sick offensive rebounder, and I think his contributions in that area are going to be significant. Really good just sealing and finishing in the post. So I think off the ball, he's going to be great. And then the other thing that makes Murray-Boyles is his passing. I really do think he's one of the most talented passers in the draft. He processes the floor on the move, hitting that short roll pass or lay down pass in the zone. I think zone offense is important in the NBA these days, as people can see. Another good play by Murray-Boyles here on the short roll. I talked about him as a short roll weapon earlier, and that's largely because of how he processes the floor and can make plays as a passer. And his handle really aids this as well. A lot of short roll bigs don't have the dexterity to continue this dribble and thread a fucking needle. Holy crap, excuse my French, that is a laser beam. We'll try some tough passes, which we'll get into, but Murray-Boyles is really, really good there. He's great at reading help on the fly. Clayton steps up. He knows the weak corner is going to be open. He just skips that pass over the top. He's got great vision for a player of his size. It's, a wingy, biggie type, and again, we see him using the handle to get himself out of trouble. This double doesn't give him a real passing angle, so instead of, panicking, trying to throw the ball over into a tight window like right here, he's like, I'm just going to dribble out and give myself an easy passing window. And I think that's another valuable thing for even occasional post-up player, but passing under pressure is valuable. And holy crap, that was another crazy pass under pressure. Classic South Carolina play this year. Murray-Boyles hangs between two defenders, twists his body, throws this ball with one hand pretty much into the pocket, falls over, and then his team totally fumbles the advantage. But yeah, his level of playmaking is really quite high. And I think it's another reason why he's underrated. Like, he's one of the better passers in the draft, and like the skill on some of these plays, that is glorious. I have no other words. He does crazy stuff like this, falling out of bounds, lasering the ball. This is another one of my favorite from Collin Murray-Boyles. A lot of his turnovers will come when he's just kind of not reading the floor out. He's on a drive here to the middle. And again, you can kind of see his lack of separation juice, like when he's driving from the perimeter, but he's anticipating this defender staying put or moving this way and his offensive player moving this way. But this is honestly just a really good defensive play, and the defender sniffs it out and is able to make it a 50-50 ball and snag that. So Murray-Boyles' great vision comes with trade-offs, right? Like, this is a great idea, hanging in the air, trying to audible, instead of taking a contested layup, you pass for an open one, but he just is off target and the play ends up being dead. So Murray-Boyles' playmaking issues to me aren't major. Like, they're largely accuracy and, kind of silly stuff related, or not silly, but definitely fixable. And they come with his play style. And his play style is very unique and makes it hard to compare to. There are some people who think he's more of like a PJ Washington-ish, and this is probably where I land, where PJ Washington in college, like, he did a little bit of pump fake, closeout attacking, could drive and finish. I think he was a little bigger and more athletic than Murray-Boyles, but it was a lot of like face-up driving, post work into a spin right there. He was just a big, right? Dribble handoff keeper. We saw Collin Murray-Boyles do this exact same thing earlier, right? Fakes the keep to MVP, NBA title, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, tore my heart out, ripped it on the floor, and stomped all over it. Anyways, PJ, a lot of like short mid-range area creation, could use his bump just to kind of hit him in the chest and drop him backwards. And I think it's reasonable to expect Murray-Boyles. Now, the shot is obviously a huge difference. Even Washington was a better mid-range shooter, but I think Murray-Boyles is a better passer than Washington was, and a better defender. But yeah, I think Washington definitely had a better shooting profile. And then, like, the optimistic comp is, like, where is he near Julius Randle, but better decision-making, some say? I think the main differences between that are, one, the just, like, explosiveness level, where Murray-Boyles was quick, but I don't think he was as flexible and as bursty and as vertically explosive as Randle. Like, Randle was a monstrous, and is a monstrous athlete, where I think CMB just lags a bit behind, just, like, doesn't have the kind of juice to, plant his back foot, attack a pretty sturdy defense, and just get a wide open layup at the front of the rim. Like, CMB is just not really doing that, whereas Randle was doing this consistently, attacking off the drive. And that's kind of my main thing with Murray-Boyles. I do just think, I wish he was a tiny bit more like twitchy and powerful and explosive. Maybe he can get there. I think I could have him like top 5, top 4 if he could get there. But he can do some of this stuff, right? Just like winning with touch, driving with power. There's definitely moments where you can see it. But the other thing that Randle really had was pull-up mid-range shooting, which we'll look at in a second just statistically. But Randle, pull-up midi. You can also see another thing Randle did not have, which was passing. Possible lob, nope. Possible kick out, nope. Possible kick out, nope. Pull-up mid-range. Murray-Boyles has a gargantuan passing and defense upgrade over Randle, but Randle, I think, was a much better scoring prospect, and that is really, really important. Another just, like, phenomenal, unbelievable finish that could have been a wide-open 8-footer or dunk right there, which you just aren't getting as much with Collin Murray-Boyles. So I think that's a point in CMB's favor. And the stat, I kind of pulled this. There definitely are statistical similarities between these three, just in terms of, like, impact metrics. All were relatively efficient aside from Randle. All drew fouls at a high rate. All got a decent amount of dunks, great finishers, but we can see Murray-Boyles on top. Definitely the shakiest shooting projection, probably. Like at least Randle didn't take threes, but he had this incredible long two stuff that CMB just doesn't. And I think Washington for sure had the best shooting profile out of the three of them. And Murray-Boyles, even though his passing stats are like a little more underwhelming than they were last year, I think largely just because, it's mostly the assisted turnover. I think it's largely just because of the teammate quality. But Murray-Boyles, to me, as interesting as he is on offense, is a defense-first prospect, and one of the better ones that you can get in the class. I think the only one that's, you can really argue is definitively better is Cooper Flagg, who you can't get unless you're Dallas. That's really valuable, and I don't think people value defense as much. Obviously, individual offense does matter more, but Murray-Boyles, I think, is the kind of individual defender you can maybe build a defense around as one of its few very best players. And that's really valuable to me, as well as, like, yeah, he's an undersized 4 who doesn't shoot, and I'm worried about the shooting projection, but he does enough kind of high-level stuff with the passing, I think, really ups his ceiling. And if the driving can improve, he could be a really kind of weird utility offensive player. But regardless, I think that lands Murray-Boyles in like the, 5 to 10 range for me rather than late or out of the lottery. Like, he has huge upside if admittedly kind of hard developments happen, and he has this incredible defense. So let me know what you think about Murray-Boyles, and like, comment, subscribe. I love all of you very dearly, and have a good night or day whenever you're watching this. Bye.